Lemon in the middle portion, Sky Shack and Big Lagoon. Sky Shack regains the lead, and finally close finish.
USA, which are going to take plenty of interest, and they're off and running after all that, and stepping away very quickly. Cunningham was very quickly into stride, and also Native Public going with him. Smooth Operator, he began just fairly, and back at the tail of the field is Leduc Angels as they run along the back about 1,000 metres out. Up front it's Cunningham, a length and a half in advance. Native Public is about 7 or 8 lengths back to the rest, headed by Smooth Operator, and Leduc Angels is the tail ender on towards the 800 metre corner. Well, they're very strung out for this small field of 4. There must be 15 to 20 lengths over them, and the leader is up front Cunningham. Cunningham leading from Native Public. He's got about a 3-length margin, about 5 or 6 lengths back then to Smooth Operator, and then came Leduc Angels as they round the bend for home, and it's Cunningham. Cunningham out with a big break, about 5 in advance, but starting to close is Native Public, followed by Smooth Operator. At the 200 metres, he pulls the whip on Cunningham to keep him going. Coming at him on the outside is Native Public, a big space back to Smooth Operator, but Cunningham kept up to the mark as they run down to the wire, and it's Cunningham all the way. Cunningham will win by 2.5 on the wire to Native Public. Third is Smooth Operator, and the last one was Leduc Angels. Off and running. He was a bit awkward away on the inside. Amber Moon, very green, and also Hot Spring. Now coming out on the outside, Repertory didn't jump that quick, but did muster some speed in the early part, and Repertory strides to the front under a very easy hole. Getting up to second is Hot Spring. Amber Moon, after that bad getaway, up to third, and on the outside of him was Wireframe. Well, they're not going any great speed here, and there's only about 6 lengths over the 4 of them as they go to the top turn by the 800 metres. In front it is Repertory, travelling well. He's got the mouth wide open and he wants to go faster. In second spot, about 4 lengths away, we've got Hot Spring. Then came Wireframe with Amber Moon as they run towards the home turn. They've got about 650 metres left to travel, and he shot away in front, and travelling very well is Repertory, and he's opened up a big break here. He's about 10 in advance. In second spot is Hot Spring. Then came Wireframe, and running on just fairly Amber Moon. But have a look at Repertory go. He's got a mile lead in front. He's about 7 and 8 lengths in advance of running on just fairly well Wireframe with Hot Spring, but it's all Repertory, and this has been very impressive. He wins by 10 on the wire. Wireframe second. Third is going to be Hot Spring and Amber. Footsteps is the mare, and they're off and running, so they rode pretty evenly. On the inside it's Rapido, hustled up, and going with him Isabel on the outside, the grey filly for Bell Racing, and she takes the lead away. It's Isabel and Jonathan B. Hernandez, and they shot away with a lead of 3 and 4 lengths. In second spot Rapido as they run towards the 1,000 metre point, starting to really stretch this lead now. Isabel and JB Hernandez racing away here with a margin of 5 and 6 lengths over Rapido as they run down the side and head towards the 700 metres. And we've got in front Isabel. She's a daughter of Union Bell, the former top racehorse here in the Philippines, who unfortunately broke down early in his career, but he was something special. And Isabel is moving in pretty fine fashion here at the moment, strides out well as she comes into the straight, and she's got a big lead over the opposition, of course, which is only Rapido. but it's Isabel given a bit of a stretch out here by JB Hernandez over the final 200 metres. And look at Isabel running down to the wire in great fashion. Isabel by 7 and 8 lengths from Rapido. A bit practice on the inside. They're off and running. Well, at the moment we've got closing time, and he's the only one that's going to leave the gate. So now the other 3 runners have stood in the gates. Masanaga, Say Something, and I've got a feeling Say Something's done that before, and a Garlic Flavour. So they'll be back to the vicious trials. Meantime, well, we've got closing time. The sole runner here, and closing time is all out on his lonesome. He's a son of Chancellor, and he strides along here for jockey C.A. Reyes. Closing time, he's all on his own. He's going to have a pretty lonely ride. He won't have anyone to talk to, but he strides along by the 700 metres, and it's closing time, loping along here, and he's all out on his lonesome after the other runners fail to leave the gates. Closing time, rolling along nice and freely. He's raced by Mr. James Anthony Big-Boss Rabano, and that's his familiar colours on top of closing time. As he rolls down the home stretch, he's just going to have a pretty easy burnout here, and he's just given a little bit of a hurry up over the final 200 metres, and closing time down to the wire to take up the trial. Just unfortunately, though. And they're off and running. Well, he stood there. The marking time didn't do him much good, the grey, and he came out very slowly, My Sweet Lord. Getting away pretty quickly in the early part was G's favourite to go straight to the front in the early part. Away quickly then was Dazzling Gab. Very slowly away though was My Sweet Lord back near the tail of the field. Let's have a look at the action up front, and G's favourite. He's racing a little bit ungenerously, but he's got a big lead here. He's about 7 and 8 in advance of Laugh in the Rain, and then came Dazzling Gab, followed then by My Sweet Lord. Now Ayuda, I don't think has left the gates because we can't pick him up at all. So at the moment we've got a field of 4 in our vision. G's favourite's about to be taken on by Laugh in the Rain. Back in third, Dazzling Gab, and making a bit of ground on the outside then as they run towards the home turn was My Sweet Lord. But around the bend for home, Laugh in the Rain moved up alongside of G's favourite. They're a bit wayward, these runners. G's favourite kicking back on the inside. Laugh in the Rain, though, looks to have his measure. They're a mile in front of the rest, headed by Dazzling Gab. And at the tail of the field, My Sweet Lord. But down to the wire, Laugh in the Rain is going down to the line to win by 2.5 lengths. G's favourite. Third, Dazzling Gab. Then came My Sweet Lord. Ayuda, unfortunately, did. Every runner has a chance. At the moment, Sultanov's got his chance with young R.J. Ramos, and they're all out on their lonesome here. We'll get a good look at this young fellow a little later on as he comes roaring down the straight, but at the moment he's just going along at a nice leisurely gallop here as he approaches the 1,000 metres. And it's R.J. Ramos riding for Andox Litzen Corporation. Mr. Edgardo, I should say, Lumpe is the trainer. Well, he certainly sits on okay. He's got a lovely style, this young fellow. Nice straight back, and looks to have lovely balance as rolling along is Sultanov, the old veteran. He knows all about it, and he's probably not that keen about going around for his 66th time. Has managed to win 12 races, though, so he certainly was no slouch in his racing days. So as he rolls up towards the home turn and just about to slide around the bend here, as you can see, a great shot there of this beautiful cambered track, and he's just rolling down towards the 250 metres, just given a pretty easy time. And young R.J. Ramos on top, and certainly does look like he's got A lovely balance, nice set of hands, this young fellow, as they go down to the line. I think he's more keener than Sultanov looking at him as they go across the line. Off and running, and they broke just about even on the inside. Magnum Force looks to have a little bit more speed, nearly part then Bell Tuna, and it's Magnum Force. He's under a nice hold as they run towards the 1100 metres. Magnum Force, he's about a length and a half in advance of Bell Tuna in second. So Magnum Force with this young rider RJ Ramos. We mentioned in the previous trial, lovely style, beautiful straight back and lovely balance, and he's a length and a half, almost two in advance of Bell Tuna, and young JV Palitro doing a nice job, and also a well-balanced young rider on the second runner here, Bell Tuna. So they're just going at a nice easy tempo here as they rock along towards the 550, and it's Magnum Force a length and a half in advance. Bell Tuna getting a little bit closer as they start to run around the home turn, and these young blokes, I think they're going to get pretty keen here over the final 300 metres, because young Palitro, he wants the lead, and on the inside Ramos is not going to surrender it that easily, but it's Bell Tuna starting to stride away, and Bell Tuna punched out by the young rider JV Palitro, and down to the wire Bell Tuna, he puts 5 and 6 lengths over Magnum Force, and Bell Tuna JV. Off and running, and they all left, well, they both left together, I should say. On the inside, Gazelle's Touch looks to have the edge over Guest of Honour on the outside as they run towards the 1100 metres. The inside gets Gazelle's Touch and young Palitrio, and he's away by 4 and 5 lengths at the moment from Guest of Honour in second spot. So there's a great close-up shot of young JV Palitrio, Guest and Gazelle's Touch, I should say, striding along nice and freely, out about 5 and 6 in advance of Guest of Honour with young Ramos in the saddle. So they're not going any great speed as they rock along towards the 700 metres here, and it is Gazelle's Touch with a big margin, 7 and 8 lengths in advance of Guest of Honour. So around the bend for home, and Gazelle's Touch, this 4-year-old grey mare, and striding along quite nicely, just giving a bit of a hurry up here as she runs down towards the 250 metres. By gee, she's put a gap on Guest of Honour. He's a mile back, and it is Gazelle's Touch racing right down to the wire. It's probably going to win this trial by about 15 lengths over Guest of Honour. The ground, they're off and running, and he began okay, Quencho. Most Wonderful wanted to duck toward the outside as they settled into stride, though, and Vinalot AU strides through on the inside. Vinalot AU is going to take up the running from the USA import Quencho. In third, Bayer Bell looks to be travelling well, and fourth, the outside then is Most Wonderful, followed then by back near the tail of the field. We've got Ninong is at the tail of the field, and just forward of him was Whiskey or Wine as they run towards the 800 metre corner. Vinalot AU travelling sweetly on the outside is Bayer Bell, and he moves up on the outside of Vinalot AU. Back in third spot then we've got Quincio, followed by Most Wonderful, and then came Whiskey or Wine. They're in the straight, and Bayer Bell straightens up with a good 2-length margin over Vinalot AU. Back in third spot then is Quincio, followed by on the outside of them is Ninong, rather Most Wonderful, running on fairly well, but Bayer Bell, this is a very easy trial. She's striding out in magnificent fashion down to the wire. Bayer Bell and JB Hernandez, and they'll win the trial by about 5 lengths. Second goes to Quencho, third Most Wonderful, Vinalot. race him up to the gates. They're off and running now. And, well, Captive Moment was a little bit fractious, went sideways at the start, coming out very quickly. Copperfield on the inside, and he strides to the front. And as they settle into stride, though, it's jaw dropping. He takes up the running, about a length and a half in advance. Captive Moment back to third, then Copperfield. Then came Cool Summer Night, followed then by Slam Dunk. And at the tail of the field and a long way off them is Cool Mum, already 15 to 25 lengths away. As they run towards the 800-metre corner, they've got a real stretch on the field. And up front, striding to the lead, we've got Jaw Dropping in front as they run towards the home turn. Copperfield sneaking back to the rail on the inside, saving some ground. Then came Creative Moment, but around the bend for home. And in front, it's Jaw Dropping through on the inside. Copperfield, he raced up and took the lead away. As they run to the 200 metres, it's Copperfield. He's under a nice hold here by Alvarez. In second spot, Jaw Dropping, and they got right away from the rest. Back in third spot then is Captive Moment, but it's all all Copperfield down to the line. He beats Jaw Dropping. Now third is going to be Slam Dunk from the back, and then came Captive Moment, followed then by Cool Summer. And they're off and running after long last, and coming out very quickly, wide out, Tattler's Story actually flew the gates for the young apprentice Amacio, and Tattler's Story taking up the running from Iris as they settle into stride. Now in third we've got Douglas Fur, and striding up on the outside is the Grey Ghost, followed then by Sunshine Jern. A big space back then behind them then was Jewel of the Nile as they run towards that 800-metre corner, and up front it's Tattler's Story with the apprentice leading 3 parts in advance of Ghost, who's starting to breathe down his neck now as I speak. Back in third we've got Sunshine Jern, then Douglas Fur, followed then by Iris, and back near the tail of the field Jewel of the Nile on towards the home turn. They've got about 650 to travel, and Ghost takes over. Ghost took over from Tattler's Story, and they cut away with a big lead. They're a mile in front of the rest, headed by Sunshine Jern and then Douglas Fur, but it's Ghost. Ghost, the ghostly grey, gallops down towards the 250 metres, and he's full of running, strides out really boldly, looking a real ball of muscle here as he strides down to the line. It's John Alvin Goose and Ghost, and they're going to win by 7. Second is going to be Jewel of the Nile, who made good ground late. Third then was Iris, then box. Off and running though in the last, and Tough Customer, he came out okay off the inside, did Tough Customer, very wide on the track. Moon Alphabet also began fairly well, and pushing up in the early part then was Quite Thunder, but in front now it's Tough Customer. So the USA import, he shot away Tough Customer as they run towards the top turn, and he's away by 4 and 5 lengths. In second spot it appears to be Shanghai Shek. We've got going up into third spot then is the grey, and that is Speed Dancer, followed then by dropping back off them we've got Moon Alphabet after that good getaway. Big spread on the field here now. Constatic Offer is a long way back off them as they run towards the home turn. Now the newcomer, Tough Customer, well, he's won at Churchill Downs, and he looks like he might be going to be a bit slick for these as they round the bend for home. And Tough Customer giving chase in second spot then. It appears to be Quite Thunder on the outside, or is it Authentication? It is. And over on the inside of him then is Shanghai Shag, but Tough Customer full of running, punch right out as they get down near the wire, and Tough Customer is going to win by 5. Now Constatic Offer has made up good ground from the back, I feel, to run second. Then came